After you've mapped an image into 5 tonal zones and created a monochromatic collage from that image, which also has 5 different kinds of toned paper, one being the darkest dark, the other being the lightest light, and then having 3 midtones in between. Once you've done that, you've actually established a map, an anchor for the values in the colored version of this you might do. So the next step would be to look at your image and ask yourself, what are the color zones? Rather than just working in monochrome, maybe doing a second map and asking yourself, what colors occupy these shapes? And sometimes within a single monochromatic shape, you actually might have more than one color. So how can we achieve a dynamic color version of this collage where the colors are really anchored in the polarities of values being the lightness and darkness of the colors? And what I find to be so great about collage is that you can tangibly just compare pieces of paper with your anchor, with your base, which would be the tonal version. And I'll show you what I mean by that. For instance, in the tonal version, this tree here is my darkest dark. In the color version, I perceive that to be sort of a deep purple. So in my mind, when I thought purple, at first I thought, oh, this is a nice purple. Maybe I could use that for the tree. But if I lay that down on top of that dark dark, or even if I lay it down on top of my guide up here, I see that that color sort of pops forward off of that value. It doesn't seem to mingle or sort of be the same lightness or darkness of that color. So I had to put that aside and find another purple, a purple that was darker in value. So this purple here, when I laid it against the tree, felt like it sort of, if I squint my eyes down, it neither sank in or popped forward. And if I lay it on top of number 5 here, I was pretty secure that I could use this value of purple for my tree over here, and that's exactly what I did. And I felt like that allowed me to make this association, because sometimes when I think of a color and I get excited about purple, I think of almost the stereotype of that color. And sometimes I forget that we really need to be sure that it's the correct lightness or darkness in order to achieve a proper value range. Same thing can be true of some of the greens in this picture. So in the foreground here, in the monochromatic version, there are several greens, and I put in sort of a mid-dark, mid-dark, and a lightish color. And if I chose this green for one of those values and I decided I was going to put it on here, well, that's way lighter in value than this zone, and I could compare it here as well. But if I bring it here and I squint my eyes down, it definitely has a closer match to that value. It's not sinking in like a hole, and it's not popping forward. So that's why I chose to put this in this mid-gray, as you can see right there. The foreground, however, has a darker feel right here, and so I chose this color green because it associated with that value pretty nicely and put it in the foreground. So you can see how nicely you can just like feel the paper, pick it up, put it directly on to the monochromatic version, make your comparison, and build the confidence through that tangible comparison that you are actually achieving the value range that you want in order to make a really dynamic image.